Estamos grabando clase del día jueves 21 de octubre del grupo 2, ¿o no? ¿O estoy loco? Grupo 2, UMCE, adverbs. Okay, introduction. Adverbs usually occur as clause elements, adverbials. Okay, got it. So adverbs, they usually occur as clause elements. When we're saying that, we're dealing with valency patterns all over again. Adverbials, they usually occur together with lexical verbs, adding information to the short clauses. So they usually, adverbials, they usually occur together with lexical verbs. Okay, lexical verbs, verbs with, or verbs that carry lots of information, right? Because that's why they're lexical. The other verbs are functional verbs. No? The function of adverbs, they serve two major roles. A, integrated into an element of the clause, that is to say, as a modifier instead of an adverb phrase, inside of a verb phrase. I have always played. Very big. Those are adverbs. They usually modify an adjective or another adverb. I'm almost positive she borrowed that off Barbie. I'm almost positive, almost positive, almost positive. I'm almost positive that she borrowed that Barbie. I will do that in that way because I think it's easier and it will help us to review what we saw yesterday with the adjective phrase. Right. Okay. So the example is I'm almost positive. I am almost positive that she borrowed that Barbie. Okay, so let's make this stuff bigger and let's do it. We're going to draw. Okay, so what I'm saying is clause with I can see a that clause immediately, and that's it. I think I am almost positive that she borrowed that Barbie. Oh, why do I do that? Well, basically, yesterday we said that adjective phrases can take complements, and those complements are prepositional phrases, to infinitives, and that clauses. There we have almost positive. Positive is an adjective, and right after that we have these that clause. Therefore, it's inside of it. As a clause, we're going to separate it by using square brackets, and then we're going to say what's inside of it. Borrow that Barbie, right? Right. So this is a noun phrase subject, verb phrase, verb. This is an adjective phrase. Very good. And the question is, what is this? And I can see the pattern subject verb. So, and then I have an adjective phrase, right? So most certainly this is a subject complement following the valency pattern SVC. Therefore, am is a copular verb. All of this, we said that we discussed this yesterday. I mean, not yesterday, but the other day. I then is a pronoun head. Is a verb head. Almost here we have our adverb premodifier, positive, adjective, head, and next to that we have our that clause. It is not any type of clause. I think I won't say that relative clause. I believe it's a that relative clause, but I'm not sure. Let's remember that names are not that relevant for us. Why? Well, mostly because you are going to study clauses in depth next term, not this one. This is about phrases, and we're dealing with clauses because they are inside of phrases, right? So just asking you to write down the name of the clause in the sense of that clauses, okay? is a complement, you can't erase it. And then that is a subordinating conjunction. That's the name for that, which helps us, which helps she borrowed that Barbie to link with, I'm almost positive, right? Then she borrowed a Barbie is a noun phrase. Borrowed that Barbie, right? Noun phrase object that Barbie. So as you can see, almost no problem. And as also, almost is an adverb pre-modifier. So you can see how adverbs are pre-modifying certain elements. Second example, first, health service managers must be able to price their services reasonably accurately for trading purposes. All over again, reasonably accurately is the adverb phrase, where an adverb reasonably is pre-modifying accurately, another adverb. Now, adverbs as clause elements. We're talking about adverbials, right? I think she will be married shortly. Then shortly is an adverb, therefore is an adverb phrase. I can move it. Shortly, I think she will be married. I think she will shortly be married, or I think she shortly will be married. The second example, possibly, all over again, the same idea. Possibly, the Wesleyan Church tolerated outside unions unofficially, in a way the Anglican Church did not. All over again, possibly, you can move it. Okay. So the interesting fact about adverbs is that they can create adverb phrases. And when we're dealing with adverb phrases inside of a valency pattern, they are representing the idea of an adverbial. Adverbials are units which are used so as to provide circumstantial information. When I say circumstantial information, I'm talking about optional information. You can erase them. One of the biggest characteristics is the fact that you can move them, right? You can take them and place them in any other place inside of the valency patterns. Therefore, they are the only options you have when you want to vary a valency pattern, right? They are usually adverbials. They answer to the questions of why, how, when, where, but they receive names. If you want to go really deep into this, well, this is next year's content. They receive names like adverbial of circumstance, adverbial of time, adverbial of place, adverbial of whatever, right? So they have names. The same adverb might function in both roles. To put on, to put on a gray shirt once more was strangely pleasing. Okay, and in this example, what we have, to put on a gray shirt once more was strangely pleasing. Oh, that's very interesting. Take a look at this example. To put on a gray shirt once more was strangely pleasing. It's a really weird sentence because here we have our verb phrase and our subject is not performed by a noun phrase but by a clause, right? To put on a gray shirt once more was strangely pleasing. It was strangely pleasing. That's really interesting. The name for this clause is to infinitive, non-finite to infinitive, but to infinitive, and is performing the role of a subject. Inside of it, we have some phrases. To put on, I think put on is a phrasal verb. To put on what? A gray shirt. When? Once more. Right. Right. Once more. Was strangely pleasing. Okay, so this is my verb phrase verb, and this is strangely pleasing. This is please is an adjective, right? It's an adjective phrase acting as a subject complement. Um, right, then what's inside of this to infinitive clause is verb phrase verb and the rest of the stuff, right? On a gray shirt, a gray shirt, a gray shirt. Once more. Okay, here we need to do something. I think once is a determiner, but is uh more is um more is an adverb. Okay, let's see what's going on. More can be a determiner, a pronoun, and an adverb. A large or extra number of or amount, some more food. In that case, what we have is an adverb, I believe. No, it's a determiner, some more food. That's a determiner. The doctors can't cope with any more patients. That's also a determiner. Used to form the comparative. That's the adverb. Used to emphasize the large size of something. Okay, that's a determiner. Okay, it could be a determiner, a pronoun, and an adverb. The point is what is inside of our example. To put on a gray shirt once more. Una vez más, once more. Once is a determiner. Can I have a determiner phrase on its own? I don't believe, I don't think you can.
Tal vez once está premodificando al more. Encuentro yo al menos. Por el
Once,
sentido que pueda tener.
once está premodificando more. That's true. I have few chances. Okay, determiner. If once is a determiner, it's an adverb. Interesting. It's not a determiner. That's interesting. I thought it was an adverb. Adverb.
Y si once es como el head y more está post modificando al once como un determiner.
No, raro que no. Determiners no tienen cabida luego del head. Y para que haya un determiner tiene que ser un noun. Tranqui, a ver. Once more es un adverb. Yo sé que more es un adverb también. More beautiful. Pero es un comparativo. To put on a gray shirt once more. Y ahí more no está como comparativo, ¿no? To put on a gray shirt once more. No, ahí significa más de cantidad. Once more. Interesting. Interesting. Once more. I would say this is an adjective. Mi primer guess sería we're seeing an adverb phrase where more is the adverb head and once is an adverb premodifier. That's my hint. Creo que eso sería. Adverb phrase, adverbial, con dos adverbs. And then strangely pleasing, aquí obviamente es just a verb head y strangely pleasing adverb premodifier and pleasing adjective head, and that's it, no more. Okay, all over again, the interesting stuff about this exercise is the fact that the subject is produced by the presence of a true infinitive clause instead of a noun phrase. So please be careful with that. Okay, we can move on. Adverbs or adverb formation. They are sometimes described as words ending in ly. Yeah, the class is actually very diverse. Diverse or diverse? Diverse, I think. Four major categories. Okay, so we have adverbs, adverb categories. Simple adverb, they are not derived from any other word. Okay, they do not end in ly, right? Like for example, well, to, and so on and so forth. Simple adverb can be used as another part of a speech. Okay, so you can use them in different or as a different word classes. Like for example, fast it could be an adjective or an adverb, the same as down, which can be preposition and adjective. Okay, interesting. Simple adverbs by compounding. For example, anyway, they have lost their independent meaning. Ah, okay, got it. Anyway, everywhere. Anyway, some way, no. Anyway, somewhere, anywhere. Those are simple adverbs by compounding. It's interesting because apparently there's a feature called compression in English, in grammar, in syntax. That is to say that when you have two words that they tend to go together, then you have a collocation, right? Because they tend to go together. But after a couple of centuries, I would say, they get to know, or they are not separated anymore, and then you're using them as a fixed phrase. Later on, and in order to fulfill the orthographic definition, you have this hyphen thing. So you write the first word and no longer a space between the first and the second, but you fill in that space or in that slot with a hyphen, and then you add the second word. What's interesting, because when in that manner you are assuming that they are no longer two different words, but they're just one single concept, right? And finally, what you have is you erase that hyphen and you just put those two words together, and then you have this, the simple adverb by compounding anyway, right? As you can clearly see that anyway is composed of two different words, any and way, the very same with because, right? Be and cause, it's the same idea. Is a compression thing. They tend to go together, so they get, they are mixed into one, they're combined into one single unit. Four major categories. B, compound adverbs. Two or more elements into a single word. Nowhere, heretofore. Okay, so here we are going to find these really weird adverbs that apparently are quite formal and with a very specific register, right? So you are going to use them under very specific circumstances. Nowhere and heretofore. C, adverbs derived by suffixation, addition of a derivational suffix ly or wise or word, right? Okay, so in letter C, you have this very well-known rule where if you add ly as a bound suffix inflection derivational morpheme, bound suffix derivational morpheme, then you're going to change whatever was the stem or root pre-morpheme into a adverb, right? The interesting stuff is that you have two others, like wise and word. So you can see words, home words, and piecewise. Okay. D, fixed phrases. These phrases never vary in form, and their component words have lost their meaning in isolation. Like, for example, of course, kind of, and at last. There are some other places where you can find them, for example, as prepositions, like, for example, in order to is a preposition. Or, for example, no, that's an adverb. Yeah, but you have some other ways in the middle of, you can also say that, right? Um, but there are other places where you can find them, right? So of course, kind of an at last. Be careful with that. Summary. Adverbs have two major functions. They modify and they are adverbials. Be careful with adverbials because we're dealing with, when I say adverbials, adverbs can be adverbials. I'm referring to the valency pattern thing. Adverbs have four major forms. They are simple, that is to say, they are created, but adverbs, they are not formed by any source of compounding or anything. Then you have compounds where you join two words or more words together. Then you have then you have suffixes, therefore derivational adverbs, ly, wise, word. And finally, you have these fixed phrases. Some adverbs have the same form as adjectives, or informally, adjectives forms are used as adverbs. Okay, good. That's interesting. Careful with that. There are certain ways or certain places. Roles and meaning. The primary function of an adverb is to modify adjectives. I am rather partial to parsnips. I don't know what a parsnips is, but whatever. Rather is an adverb and is premodifying partial. Second example, you can see the very same idea, but there you can see how an adjective phrase can have three different adverbs, premodifiers. Utterly, hopelessly, horribly glad. Third example, this is a slightly larger than the calculated value. Then you have this adverb slightly, right? Careful with than the calculated value because it's a prepositional phrase complement of the adjective head larger, right? So in fact, what you have there is a noun phrase subject this, a verb phrase verb is, and then an adjective phrase slightly larger than the calculated value. And that adjective phrase is a subject complement. The adverbs enough and ago are postposed. That is to say, they are used as post modifiers instead of pre-modifiers. For example, down came the dry flakes, fat enough and heavy enough to crash like snickles on stone. And there you can see that fat enough and heavy enough, those are adjective phrases where the adjective is fat, adjective head, and then enough is an adverb post modifier. Careful. Then other adverbs can also be postposed. It is rich nutritionally with high calcium content. So, okay, they're saying rules. They are saying, oh, be very careful with these postposed adjective adverbs. Sorry, because they are these two. But then they say, oh, but be very careful because there are others. So what I can say is this: I can say, please be very careful when you're providing your analysis and take a look at what you're doing, right? Because there's a strong I won't say tendency, probability. There's a strong probability you can find some adverbs as post modifiers instead than pre, right? Last one. Adverb modifying another adverb. We know that, right? We know this. They all figured it out really fast and then figured it out really fast. How really fast, right? Really fast. And that really fast is an adverb phrase with fast as an adverb and really is another adverb premodifying fast. Adverbs are less common modifiers of other adverbs. There are some common constructions, right? So you can find them quite easily, pretty much better, much more than the rest of them. And as you can see, adverb phrases are something quite easy to understand because they have basically the very same characteristics as adjectives. Any doubt about adverb phrases? No?
No.
Okay, good. That's all for today. Lo que vamos a hacer entonces, esto es todo por hoy día. Les voy a renderear esto. Bueno, se renderea el video, lo subo. Usted lo tiene, lo ve, lee el slide. Si le falta algo, me escribe.